Well, the assembly turned out to be remarkably straightforward. And here's the finished unit. You can see I've got the power supply controller, the nano, the relay card, and the real-time clock and the relay card. Excuse me. There turned out to be very little to do in the way of jumpers. There was just one here, the little resistor that goes from a dress line to a copper strip, disappears all the way across the other side and comes out as the brown wire for the signal for the relay card. Right next to the signal line was also the 5 volts and ground, which then joined this little header cable that plugs in to the relay card. There's another ground wire going from here to this little chocolate strip connector that will then be used with this relay contact going out to the water solenoid, back through to the ground, and the 12 volts to power it comes from the regulator card. And the only other jumpers I had to add were, you might just be able to see them underneath there. There's power and ground, which were the only two I needed to get to the real-time clock, as the data circuits, 2 wires for the data circuits, were actually directly connected to the correct analog lines on the nano card. And there it is, very neat, and very little in the way of jumpers and soldering. Obviously the vast majority was the actual nano card. Then we got the header for the real-time clock, and then a few power grounds and signal lines, and that was it. Now, having thought about it, there is one more additional header I'm going to add, which will be over here someplace, about here, and that'll be a 2-pin header. Excuse me, because it just occurred to me that once this whole unit is inside the box, there is no indication that it's actually powered on. So I'm just going to put a resistor and a fly wire to a LED, which will go through the cover. Now, as far as the box goes, here it is with a few holes, butchered, as many might remember my hate of working with plastic. Big chunk fell off this end, but thankfully I've got it so I can glue it back in and clean up the hole. But it fits so damn well. He says, trying to do it with one hand looking at a camera screen. There we go. Let me just pull it up a bit. Now, put it in straight, and there we go. Nicely inside the box, with the hole to the mini USB that just needs squaring off, the hole for the power supply connector, and then there's going to be another hole here for the cables going to the watering solenoid. And that's it all done. Looks very nice. Now, one thing I had noticed, let's see if I can lift this out again. There we go. Move the case out of the way. I purchased this water solenoid. It's actually a water and or air solenoid, and it was quite expensive considering the simple job it does. Nicely shows the water flow direction and fly wires attached, and it was about £10, which, you know, in the scheme of things is expensive when you think that this was about £1, this was £1, this was about 60p, and this was about £1. So this, being 10 quid, was remarkably expensive. And it has inside threads as opposed to exterior. So I've yet to go to the hardware store and figure out what threads it is and connect to a hose pipe. But a couple of days ago, some units that I ordered from China came in. These things. Let me get this stuff out of the way. This thing. Now you can see it's a bit ugly actually, and it has these automobile type connectors. You have to notice on the bottom there is an absolutely tiny little arrow cast into the plastic moulding, showing which direction the water flow is. And of course there's some serious design problems, certainly for my design. Let me bring the case over. So here's my case. Now I was going to mount this here, which, as you can see, sits perfectly fine. We got the water in and the water out, and the hole for the wires. Now, one of the design flaws with the Chinese one, well, don't really need to say much about that, do I? Connecting the hose might be a little bit of a problem. So I guess I might have to mount this on a little block of some form, or just have it separate. I don't know yet. But I wanted to just see what they were like. And there's a little test. Obviously it's not connected to the computer anymore, so you won't see the serial monitor, but hopefully you will see the watering LED come on when I apply power. He says, as usual, stumbling. There you go. Could have maybe heard it, but the green light's on. And as with my design, the first time you plug it in, it doesn't know if you've watered, so it's going to water. And after the first time, it will then start watering on the hour, every hour for a minute, which is just the way I've coded it for the moment to test it. So I'm not going to sit here for a minute and wait, but you get the idea. So it's really nice. It's compact. It draws, if I can show you this little guy, virtually no current, non-measurable. It does draw a little bit more when the relay and the solenoid are on, but you know, in the real world that'll be once a day for 20 minutes. Oh, well, I guess I took a minute because it's just turned off. Alright, it's looking good. So I've just got to drill a couple of holes for mounting the card in the box. I've got to drill another hole for the power cable, and then a couple of holes to mount the watering solenoid. And then it's out for test. Okay, bye.